How does a person stand in your own house, in front of your own family, and tell you to leave like you are a guest? Why did my daughter-in-law give me 20 days to move out during a farewell ceremony, like she was doing me a favor? And how did she wake up the next morning to officials at her door? My name is Glen Carter. I am 58. I live in the same house I bought almost 20 years ago. It is not a fancy place. It is a normal 2-story home in a quiet neighborhood. I used to feel proud when I turned into my street. I used to feel safe when I put my key in the door. These days, I often pause before I go inside. I stand near my car and breathe one slow breath. I listen to the sounds in the house. I do not do this because I am afraid. I do it because I want to be calm before I step into a room where I am treated like I am in the way. I am not a loud man. I never was. For most of my adult life, I worked in city compliance. It was not a job for people who like to shout. It was a job for people who read rules, take notes, and stay steady. When people argued, I learned to listen without reacting. When people tried to push, I learned to answer with facts and a quiet voice. That habit stayed with me even after I retired. My son, Evan, moved back into my house 2 years ago. At first, it was supposed to be temporary. He had a new job opportunity, but he said he needed time to settle. He asked if he and his wife could stay for a while. I said yes because he is my son. I said yes because I believed family should help family as long as people keep respect. His wife is Marina. She is 32. She is sharp and social. She knows how to smile at the right time and how to speak in a way that makes people agree with her. When she first came into my life, I tried to welcome her. I asked about her work. I asked about her family. I tried to learn what kind of food she liked. I did not ask for praise. I only wanted basic manners. In the beginning, Marina was polite in public. In the house, it was different. The first change was small. She moved things in my kitchen without asking. She said she was organizing. I told her I liked things where they were. She said it was better her way. Then she started correcting me in front of Evan. If I said I would handle a repair, she said it would be easier if Evan did it. If I cooked dinner, she said the smell stayed in the curtains. If I watched the news, she said it made the house feel heavy. None of these comments were loud. None of them were dramatic. They were quiet cuts. I did not fight. I did not slam doors. I did not make threats. I told myself it was stress. I told myself she was adjusting. I told myself Evan was tired and needed peace. I thought if I stayed calm, things would settle. But calm can look like permission to the wrong person. After a while, the house started feeling like it belonged to her. The living room changed first. My old chair, the one I always sat in, was moved to a corner. She said it blocked the light. A new couch appeared. A new rug appeared. Family photos changed too. My photo with Evan from his graduation used to sit near the hallway. One day it was gone. In its place was a framed picture of Evan and Marina on a beach, both smiling like a magazine cover. I noticed these things, but I did not shout about them. I asked Evan once, in a quiet moment, if he saw the changes. He said Marina was only trying to make the house nicer. He said I should not take it personally. He said I should focus on relaxing now that I was retired. That was the first time I felt like I was fading in my own home. The routine became clear. Marina would decide. Evan would agree. I would be expected to adapt. If I did not adapt fast enough, Marina would sigh like I was slowing everyone down. She would look at Evan, and Evan would look away. Then I would do what I always did in my job. I would take one step back and let the noise pass. A few weeks before the ceremony, Marina started talking about a farewell event for Evan. Evan had a new assignment in another state. It was a real move, not just a short trip. They would be gone for a long time. Marina told everyone she wanted a proper send-off. She said it would show support. She said it would be good for Evan's image at work. She said it would help connections. I agreed to attend. I even offered to pay for some of it. I thought it could be a nice moment. I thought we could feel like a family again, even if only for one evening. Marina did not thank me. She only said she already had the plan. She picked the community center banquet hall. It was a big room with long tables and a small stage. I had been there many times. There were retirement parties there, graduation dinners, charity nights. The hall had plain white walls and bright lights that made everything look a little flat. The chairs were metal with thin cushions. The air always smelled like cleaning spray and coffee. In the days leading up to it, my house felt like a hotel where I was the guest. Marina brought in boxes of decorations. She placed them in the dining area and told me not to touch them. She asked me to keep my things out of the main rooms. She said she did not want clutter in photos. I remember standing in my kitchen, holding my own mug, and feeling like I needed permission to set it down. The morning of the farewell ceremony, I woke up early. I always wake up early. I made coffee and sat at the table. I looked at the calendar on the wall. Marina had written reminders on it. Most of them were about Evan. Some were about the event. None were about me. It sounds small, but small things add up. When you live with people, the calendar tells you who matters. Evan came into the kitchen later. He looked nervous, but excited. He said the event would be fine. He asked if I could arrive early to help move some items. I said yes. I did not want trouble. I did not want stress. I wanted the evening to go smoothly. Marina came in after him. She was dressed like she was going to a formal dinner. She checked her phone and spoke quickly. She reminded Evan about the order of speakers. She reminded him to smile. She told him not to look tired. Then she looked at me and said I should wear something nicer than my usual jacket. She said it would look better for pictures. She said people would judge. I nodded and said I understood. At the community center, people were already arriving. Marina moved like a manager. She directed chairs and table settings. She told Nora Klein, the woman helping with the event, where to place the gift table. Nora is a family friend. She is 56 and has a gentle way of speaking. She looked at me with a small, careful expression, like she wanted to say something but did not want to cause a scene. I helped carry items from the car. I placed trays on a side table. I checked that the microphone on the stage was working. I did not need to do these things, but staying busy kept me calm. As more people came in, I noticed how Marina changed. She smiled wider. Her voice became warmer. She touched people's arms lightly as she greeted them. She laughed at jokes she would not laugh at in my kitchen. She was polite, charming, and confident. If you only met her there, you would think she was the perfect spouse. Evan stood near her and followed her lead. When she spoke, he nodded. When she moved, he moved. He looked at her more than he looked at anyone else. I do not say that with anger. I say it like a fact I finally accepted. The event started. People sat down, plates clinked. The sound of conversation filled the hall like soft rain. There was food, speeches, and small gifts. The kind of night people remember as pleasant, even if they forget details later. When it was time for speeches, Marina took control of the microphone. She thanked people for coming. She praised Evan's work and his future. She spoke about new chapters and fresh starts. People nodded and smiled. Then she shifted the focus. She said that big changes require clear steps. She said that a young couple needs space to build their life. She said the house needed to become their home fully, without old routines holding them back. At first, I thought she was speaking in general terms. Then she looked directly at me. She said I had 20 days to leave the home. She said it in a calm tone, like she was reading a schedule. She said it as if it had already been agreed on. She said it as if she was doing the responsible thing by telling me in front of everyone. For a second, I did not feel anger. I felt a strange quietness in my chest, like everything inside me went still. My hands were warm. My face stayed neutral. I could hear someone cough in the back of the room. I could hear the hum of the lights above us. People reacted in small ways. Some looked down at their plates. Some looked at Evan, waiting for him to correct her. Some looked at me, waiting for me to argue. A few gave short, uneasy laughs, the kind people make when they do not know what to do. Evan did not step forward. He did not take the microphone. He did not say it was wrong. He simply stood there, stiff, like he was trying not to make it worse. I understood something in that moment. Marina did not choose this setting by accident. She wanted witnesses. She wanted pressure. She wanted me to feel too embarrassed to respond. She wanted the room to make the decision for me. I kept my voice low. I did not ask for the microphone. I did not ask for time to speak. I did not explain my side. I did not ask Evan to defend me. I only nodded once and said I understood. I could see Marina relax a little, her shoulders lowered. Her smile became more real. In her mind, my silence was proof that she won. Nora Klein looked at me again. Her eyes were serious now. She did not smile. She looked like someone who just saw a line get crossed, and she knew it. The speeches continued, but the room felt different. The sound of clapping was thinner. The laughter did not reach everyone. Some people avoided looking at me. Some people watched me too closely. I stayed in my seat and kept my hands folded. I ate very little. I focused on breathing. When the event ended, I helped clean up without being asked. I gathered cups and plates. I folded a few chairs. I carried a box to the car. Marina acted like nothing happened. She moved through the room like a person who had just completed a successful project. On the drive home, Evan was quiet. Marina talked about how well the night went. She said people were impressed. She said the photos would look great. She said the next 20 days would go fast if I stayed organized. I listened and said nothing. That night, back in my house, I walked through the living room slowly. The furniture did not change, but the feeling did. I looked at the walls and thought about how easy it is for someone to erase you when you try too hard to be calm. I went to my room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. I did not cry. I did not shake. I did not make a promise out loud. I simply sat there, calm and very aware that something had shifted. After that night, I started seeing the last 2 years as one long pattern. It was not one bad comment. It was not one rude moment. It was a slow shift where my home became a stage for someone else, and I became the extra person standing in the corner. When Evan first asked to move back in, he sounded embarrassed. He said rent was high. He said he and Marina needed a short reset. He said it would only be for a year. I told him he did not need to feel ashamed. I told him I had space. I told him I would rather have family clothes than watch him struggle alone. In the first month, I tried hard to make it easy. I cleaned the guest room and moved my own boxes to the garage. I gave them a section of the closet. I cleared a shelf in the kitchen for Marina's things. I even gave them the better parking spot in the driveway because Marina said she did not like walking far at night. Marina smiled and thanked me in front of Evan. But later, in the kitchen, she started listing what she wanted changed. She said the house felt dark. She said the curtains were old. She said the living room layout was wrong. She said the kitchen cabinet smelled like old cooking. She did not ask if she could change these things. She spoke like the decision was already made. I reminded myself that people have different styles. I told myself she was trying to make a home, but I noticed how she talked to me. She did not talk like a guest. She talked like a manager speaking to staff. The next shift was how she used Evan. She spoke to him first, even when the issue involved me. If I said I would pay the property tax like I always did, she would tell Evan they needed a better plan for their future. If I said I wanted quiet in the evening, she would tell Evan the house felt too strict. Evan would then come to me and say they needed new boundaries, like he was reading words he did not write. I started feeling like I was living with a team, and I was not on it. One night, I came home from the grocery store and found my keys did not work on the back door. The lock was new. Marina was in the hallway holding a small bag of tools. She told me she changed it for safety. She said it was normal and I should not take it personally. I asked why she did not tell me first. She said she thought I would forget, like it was a joke about my age. Evan stood behind her and looked down at the floor. He told me it was fine and it was for the best. I nodded and asked for a copy of the key. Marina said she would make one later. She did not make one for 2 weeks. During that time, I had to enter through the front door like a visitor. The house was mine, but my own routine became something I had to request. I did not shout about it. I kept calm. I only made a note to myself that this was not an accident. It was a test. There were other tests. Marina started leaving small notes on the counter about what I should not do. Do not leave shoes by the door. Do not use the living room fan. Do not start laundry after 8. She called them reminders. I called them control. At dinner, she would correct the way I said things. If I used a simple word, she would replace it with a different one. If I mentioned something from my job, she would say nobody cares about old city rules. She would laugh softly and look at Evan like she expected him to join in. Evan would smile, not because it was funny, but because he wanted the moment to end. After a while, I stopped sharing anything personal. If I spoke, I kept it practical. I spoke about weather, traffic, and food. I learned to make myself smaller in my own home. The worst part was how she changed the story in front of other people. When neighbors asked how things were, Marina would say she and Evan were taking care of me. She would say I was lucky to have them close. She would say retirement made me confused sometimes. People would nod and smile like she was being kind. I would stand there and feel my face stay still. Once, at the church parking lot after a Sunday service, a woman from the community asked Marina if it was hard living with an older parent. Marina said it was challenging, but she was patient. She said she was teaching me new ways. Evan stood beside her and did not correct it. I felt like someone moved my name out of my own life and replaced it with a label. Later, in the car, I asked Evan why he did not speak up. He said he did not want conflict. He said it was easier to let Marina talk. He said I should not focus on it. He said the important thing was that we were together. I did not argue. I told him I understood. But inside, I realized something. Evan did not protect me from Marina. He used my calmness as a cushion so he could avoid choosing a side. And Marina understood that. The money question started after that. Marina would ask how much I had saved. She would ask about my pension. She would ask if the home was fully paid off. At first, I thought she was only making conversation. Then I noticed she asked these questions most when Evan was tired or distracted, like she did not want him thinking too hard about it. One afternoon, I came into the living room and saw papers spread across the coffee table. Marina quickly stacked them and said it was nothing. She said she was just looking at future planning. I asked what kind of planning. She said it did not concern me. That was her exact phrase. It did not concern me in my own living room. After that, I became more careful with what I left around. I started keeping my mail in my room. I started checking that my documents were where I put them. I did not accuse anyone. I did not start a fight. I only adjusted quietly, like a person closing windows when the weather changes. The farewell ceremony did not come out of nowhere. Marina had been building toward it. She would say small things like the house needed a clean break. She would say Evan needed a strong base. She would say it was time for me to downsize. She said these things with a soft smile, like she was helping. Sometimes she said it in front of guests. She would ask me if I had looked at apartments yet. She would ask me if I had thought about living in a smaller place with fewer stairs. People would chuckle politely. I would nod and say I was thinking about it. I did not want to make guests uncomfortable. Marina used that. She used my manners as a rope. A week before the ceremony, she started using the group chat more. It was a family chat with my brother's family and a few cousins. Marina posted reminders about what time to arrive and what to wear. She posted a list of who would speak. She posted little messages about respect and support. She acted like she was the voice of the family. Then she posted something that made my stomach go still. She wrote about the next phase after Evan's move. She wrote that the house would finally be set up the right way. She wrote that timelines matter and everyone should be mature. Nobody replied to that part. Some people put a small reaction icon. Some people ignored it. I saved the message without commenting. I did not want a fight in a public chat. I did not want Marina to claim I was attacking her. And I watched and stayed quiet. The day after the ceremony, Marina walked through the house like she owned the air. She spoke about the 20 days as if it was a kind gift she gave me. She told Evan that we needed to start packing my things. She told him the guest room could become an office. She told him my garage space was too messy and should be cleaned out. I kept calm and did not answer quickly. Marina seemed to take my silence as agreement. She got bolder. That afternoon, she came into the kitchen while I was washing a cup. She told me I should leave sooner than 20 days if I wanted to be respectful. She said 20 days was already generous. She said most people would not even give that. I asked her why she did it in front of everyone. She said it was important to set expectations. She said I needed to hear it clearly. She said if she told me in private, I might pretend it was not real. I told her I heard her clearly. Then she said something that stayed with me. She said I should not act like I had power just because I had been there longer. She said time does not matter if you are not useful anymore. She said Evan and she were the future, and I was the past. She said it calmly. She said it like a basic fact. I dried my hands and looked at her. I did not raise my voice. I did not call her names. I did not threaten anything. I only told her I understood her position. She looked satisfied, like she had pushed a button and got the result she wanted. That night, I went to the living room and sat in the chair she had moved to the corner months earlier. I looked at the walls, the new decorations, the missing photos. I thought about how people can take over your space while smiling. I thought about how Evan had slowly stopped seeing me as his father and started seeing me as a problem to manage. I did not feel rage. I felt clarity. I took a notebook from my drawer and wrote down the date of the ceremony. I wrote down the words Marina used in the kitchen. I wrote down the group chat post. I wrote down the lock change from months earlier. I did not write it to build drama. I wrote it because I knew one thing from my old work. People who push hard often leave a trail, and trails can be followed if you stay calm and keep your facts straight. My quiet notebook did not change the house. It only changed me. Once I started writing dates, I noticed how Marina repeated the same moves. She pressured in public. She controlled in private. She used Evan as her shield. And when I stayed calm, she used that as proof that her plan was working. The day after I wrote those notes, I started paying attention to details I used to ignore. I noticed how often Marina watched the front window. I noticed how she rushed to the mailbox before I could get there. I noticed how she carried her phone from room to room like it was a key. I also noticed the cars. At first, I told myself it was normal. People visit, neighbors have friends, a street has traffic. But these cars were not the same neighbors. They came late. They parked in ways that blocked the sidewalk. They stayed for a short time, then left. Sometimes 2 different cars came on the same night. Sometimes I saw a car pull in, and someone would come to the door with a small bag, then leave again before the evening was over. I did not say anything. I simply watched. One night, I stepped into the hallway and saw a man I did not know coming out of the guest bathroom. He looked surprised to see me. Marina walked fast from the kitchen and placed herself between us like a wall. She said it was Evan's co-worker. She said he needed to freshen up before heading home. She said I was making it awkward by standing there. I nodded and went back into my room. A week later, I saw a different person in the same hallway. This time, it was a woman with a suitcase. Marina said it was a friend who needed to stay a night before a trip. She said it was normal to help friends. She said I should be proud that our home was welcoming. I nodded again. Evan did not seem to notice the pattern. Or maybe he noticed and decided it was easier not to ask. He was busy with work. He was always tired. When he came home, he ate and went to bed. Marina handled everything else, and Evan treated that like a relief. At first, I blamed him for being passive. Then I understood that Marina liked him passive. She liked him tired. She liked him focused on his job because it left her free to manage the house and the story. The next line Marina crossed was about my room. One afternoon, I came home and found boxes outside my door. They were mine. Old books, a few framed photos, a small lamp. Marina had moved them out without asking. She said she was preparing the room for the next phase. She said I should start packing now because it would be easier if I did it slowly. I asked why she touched my things. She said it was her house, too, because she lived there. She said she was only helping. She said if I did not like her help, I could pack faster and leave sooner. I carried the boxes back inside and placed them on my bed. I did not argue. I did not accuse. I only felt something settle inside me, like a decision forming without noise. That night, I went into the garage. My garage has always been my calm place. It is not perfect. It smells like wood, oil, and dust. There are shelves with labeled bins. There is an old workbench with scratches from years of small repairs. I keep a small folding chair there, and a light I can aim at whatever I'm working on. I opened a cabinet that I rarely touch now. Inside were folders from my old work habits. Not official work files, just my personal habit of keeping important papers organized. Maintenance records, property information, insurance notes, old emails printed for my own use. It was not dramatic. It was just the way I have always lived. I took out one empty folder and wrote a simple title on it with a marker, Timeline. Then I sat at the workbench and began listing facts on a piece of paper. Not feelings, not opinions, facts, dates, names I knew, times I saw cars, the day the lock changed, the day my items were moved without permission, the day Marina posted the group chat message, the day she said time did not matter if you were not useful. Seeing it written in one place did something to my mind. It made the situation cleaner. It made it less personal and more like a problem with parts. I did not feel anger. I felt focus. Over the next few days, I became careful with my space. I kept my keys in my pocket instead of on the kitchen hook. I kept my mail in my room and opened it right away. I checked for missing pieces, like statements and notices that should have arrived. I did not find a big dramatic missing packet. It was smaller than that. A letter here, a statement there, enough to make me think someone was filtering what I saw. I also noticed how Marina asked about my schedule. She would ask when I planned to go out. She would ask what day I would be visiting my brother. She would ask when I would return. She spoke like she was being polite. But the questions came with a certain timing, almost like she wanted the house empty for certain hours. One evening, while Evan was in the shower, Marina came into the living room and sat across from me. She said she wanted to talk about practical steps. She said she needed to know my plan so she and Evan could plan their future. She said if I was going to live alone, I might not handle it well. She said I should be realistic about my age. I told her I heard her concerns. I told her I would handle my own plan. She smiled like that answer meant I had no plan at all. The next day, Mrs. Shue spoke to me over the fence. Mrs. Shue is my neighbor. She has lived next door longer than Marina has been alive. She is not noisy and she does not chase drama. She notices things because she gardens and spends time outside. She sees who comes and goes. She asked if everything was okay. She said she noticed a lot of different cars lately. She said she saw people carrying bags at odd hours. She said she did not want to interfere, but it looked unusual. I told her I appreciated her concern. I did not tell her a full story. I only asked her what she saw and when. She listed a few dates she remembered because she connects them to her own routine. A night she watered late. A morning she put out trash early. A weekend she had family over and noticed unfamiliar cars. I wrote those dates down later. I did not ask her to do anything. I did not ask her to confront anyone. I just listened. That evening, I watched Marina in the kitchen with new eyes. I noticed how she looked at the hallway when a car door closed outside. I noticed how she became tense when Evan walked into the room unexpectedly. I noticed how quickly she switched back to her warm public smile the moment Evan spoke. I started understanding that Marina was not only pushing me out because she wanted control. There was also something about the house itself she wanted free of me. Free of my attention, free of my routines, free of a homeowner who asked questions. That was the moment the clarity became complete. Not because I discovered a secret, but because I accepted a simple truth. Marina did not respect me. She did not fear my words. She did not care about my feelings. The only thing she would care about was a system she could not charm. For the first time, I thought about handling this through the channels I used to work with. Not for revenge, not for drama, for order, for truth, for boundaries that do not bend to a smile. I began with one small step. I went into my home office corner. It is not a full office, just a desk and a filing drawer near the window. I sat down, opened my notebook, and reviewed the timeline. I added new lines, boxes moved, unfamiliar guest in hallway, suitcase visit, neighbor notes. Then I made a phone call. I called a general public counter and asked what process a homeowner should follow to confirm records connected to a property. I kept my voice neutral. I did not mention Marina. I did not make accusations. I asked like a person trying to be responsible. The person on the phone gave me basic instructions. They told me what office to visit and what I could request. They told me the hours and what identification to bring. I thanked them and ended the call. The next step was another quiet adjustment. I bought a plain USB drive from a local store. Nothing special, nothing expensive. I brought it home and placed it in my desk drawer. I also printed a blank calendar page and marked the next 3 weeks. I circled one date, not because it was magical, but because it was the day I would take certain steps. I did not tell Evan. I did not tell Marina. I did not hint. I did not threaten. I continued to act like the same calm man they thought they understood. At dinner, Marina spoke about my move-out timeline again. She said I should start sorting my things. She said she could recommend a small place across town. She said it would be better for me to accept the change and not make it harder for Evan. I nodded and said I would handle my plans. She looked at me, trying to read my face. I gave her nothing. That night, I went back to the garage and added one more folder to my shelf. I labeled it with a single word: records. I did not open it yet. I did not fill it yet. I just made space for what I knew was coming. Then I sat in my folding chair and listened to the house through the garage door. The faint sound of the television, the soft footsteps, the occasional buzz of Marina's phone. I felt calm, not because things were okay, but because I had stopped waiting for respect that was never going to arrive. I had moved from hoping to planning, and I did it without raising my voice even once. The next morning, I went out early. I left the house before Marina came into the kitchen. I did not announce it. I did not explain. I took my wallet, my keys, and my notebook. I drove in silence, letting my mind stay steady. The county records counter was inside a building that always felt too bright. The lights were white and flat. The floors were clean but scuffed from years of shoes. People sat in plastic chairs holding papers, looking tired and impatient. I took a number and waited. While I waited, I watched how people acted when they wanted something. Some tried to charm the clerk. Some tried to rush the process. Some spoke loudly like volume could change policy. I stayed quiet. When my number was called, I stepped forward with a calm face and a simple request. I asked for copies of records connected to my property. I asked for filing history and any recorded changes connected to the address. I did not say why. I did not mention family. I did not add emotion to it. I spoke like a person who wanted to keep his files updated. The clerk looked at my identification, typed on the keyboard, and printed a few pages. I paid a small fee. I thanked her. I placed the documents in a plain envelope and walked out. In the car, I did not open the envelope right away. I waited until I was calm again. That sounds strange, but it mattered. I did not want to read something important with shaking hands or a racing mind. When I finally looked, I scanned the pages for dates and names. I did not react with shock. I reacted with focus. I saw enough to confirm what I already suspected. Marina was not only talking about paperwork. She had been trying to move pieces into place. Some steps were blocked because she did not have the authority she acted like she had. But she had been pushing at the edges, looking for gaps. I put the pages back into the envelope and wrote one line in my notebook. Confirmed. Then I wrote the date. After that, I went to the bank. The branch lobby smelled like carpet and air conditioning. People stood in a slow line. A screen played quiet ads. I waited and watched. When it was my turn, I asked to speak with someone about account activity tied to my name. I kept my words careful. I did not claim a crime. I did not accuse anyone. I said I wanted to understand something that felt unusual. The bank employee asked me a few questions and checked the system. She frowned slightly as she looked at the screen. Then she told me someone had tried to start a process that required verification. It did not go through. It was flagged and paused. She explained it in a polite way, but the meaning was clear. Someone had tried to move forward using my information without coming directly to me first. I thanked her, asked what steps I should take to protect my accounts, and followed the guidance. I requested stronger account alerts. I updated contact preferences. I added notes that I wanted any major change confirmed through direct contact. When I left the bank, I sat in the car for a moment and stared at the steering wheel. Again, I did not feel rage. I felt a clean, cold certainty. Marina was not only pushing me socially, she was testing systems. That afternoon, I went to the HOA clubhouse. The clubhouse was a small building near the entrance of the neighborhood. It had a front desk, a small meeting room, and a wall covered in printed rules. I have always had a calm relationship with the HOA. I keep my yard clean, I pay on time, I do not start fights. I spoke to the manager, Lena Ortiz. She was neutral and professional. I told her I had a few questions about occupancy, guest policies, and any restrictions connected to repeated short stays. I did not say why. I said I wanted to understand the rules clearly because my household situation had changed. Lena answered without emotion. She explained what the rules were, what counted as a violation, and what documentation mattered if a complaint was made. She also told me that the HOA sometimes received concerns about unfamiliar traffic, noise, and parking issues, and that they handled those things through reports and evidence, not feelings. I thanked her and left. I did not file anything, not yet. Back at home, I walked in quietly and placed my envelope in my room. I locked my door. Then I went into the kitchen like nothing happened. Marina was at the counter with her phone. She barely looked up. She asked where I had been. Her tone was casual, but her eyes were sharp. I told her I ran errands. She asked what kind. I told her normal errands. She smiled in a thin way and said I should focus my energy on packing instead. She said she did not want to repeat herself. She said the 20 days were already counting down. I nodded. I told her I understood. That evening, Evan came home late. Marina spoke fast and bright, telling him about the next steps for their move and the farewell messages people sent him. Evan looked tired. He sat down, ate, and rubbed his forehead like his head hurt. Marina then said she needed to show him something. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through messages from people praising the ceremony. She laughed and repeated the compliments out loud. She wanted Evan to feel that she was admired. She wanted him to associate her with success. Evan nodded, half listening. I watched him and felt something heavy, not in anger, but in disappointment. Evan did not see the house anymore. He saw Marina's world. He saw her approval. He saw the surface. After dinner, I went to my room and opened my notebook. I wrote down where I went that day: county records, bank, HOA. I did not write details. I wrote the steps. I wrote the dates. Then I began building a simple timeline on paper. I wrote the ceremony date at the top. Below it, I listed the lock change from months earlier. I listed the missing mail moments. I listed the group chat post. I listed the hallway incidents with unfamiliar visitors. I listed what Mrs. Shue told me. I did not describe anyone in dramatic terms. I kept it plain. This person entered at this time. This car parked here. This statement was made on this date. I treated it like a report, because that mindset kept me safe from emotion and kept me focused on what could be proven. Over the next few days, Marina became more careless. Once she spoke on the phone in the backyard. I was in the garage with the door slightly open, looking for a tool. I heard her voice. She was telling someone the house would be fully theirs soon. She said the old man would be gone. She said they could finally do what they wanted without someone watching. She laughed. It was a soft laugh, like she was sharing a funny secret. I did not step out and confront her. I did not slam the garage door. I simply stayed still until the call ended. Then I wrote the date and a short line in my notebook. Backyard call. Fully theirs. Old man gone. Another day, I noticed Marina posted again in the family group chat. She wrote about respecting transitions and letting people move forward. She wrote it like a motivational quote. She wrote it like she was the voice of wisdom. I saved it. I did not reply. The more she posted, the more she confirmed something for me. Marina needed the story. She needed people to accept her version. She needed Evan to accept it too, so he would not question her. She was not only moving furniture, she was moving perception. I started taking more walks outside, not to escape, but to observe. When I walked, I noticed which cars slowed near my house. I noticed which ones parked and for how long. I noticed patterns around weekends and late evenings. I did not follow anyone. I did not do anything strange. I simply used my eyes and my memory. Mrs. Shue spoke to me again near her garden. She said she saw another suitcase come in late at night. She said she did not like it. She said it did not look like family. She said she could not sleep well when things felt unsettled. I thanked her. I told her I understood. I did not ask her to do anything, but her concern added weight to what I already saw. Then a new escalation arrived through email. A meeting notice appeared from the HOA. It was not an emergency, but it was formal. It said there would be a compliance review and that someone from the household should attend. It listed a date and time. It asked for the property owner or an authorized representative. I read it twice, then printed it and placed it in my envelope. Marina found out that same evening because she checks the shared email sometimes. She came into the kitchen holding her phone and asked why the HOA was contacting us. She said it must be a mistake. She said people were jealous and trying to cause trouble. I kept my tone calm. I told her I did not know yet. I told her we could attend and listen. She said she would handle it. She said she knew how to talk to people. She said I should not embarrass her by speaking too much. I nodded and said, "Okay." Inside, I felt something settle again. Marina did not want me speaking because she did not want me creating a record with my words. She did not want me asking questions that would force clear answers. That night, I made one more quiet call. I contacted an attorney's office that I had been referred to years ago through a colleague. I did not tell them my whole story on the phone. I simply asked for an appointment about property rights and household removal issues. I kept my request professional. They offered me a time slot. I took it. When I hung up, I sat at my desk and looked at the circled date on my calendar. I did not feel excited. I did not feel afraid. I felt prepared. Marina continued to act like the 20 days were a countdown to her victory. She reminded me of it whenever she could. She told Evan that my room would become their storage space. She told him they could repaint after I was gone. She talked about it like I was already erased. I let her believe that. Each day, I moved quietly through the house, doing small, normal things, keeping my face calm. I washed dishes. I took out trash. I walked to the mailbox before she could sometimes, and I watched her reaction when she saw me holding my own mail. I was not playing games. I was measuring behavior. By the end of that week, the situation had shifted from uncomfortable to clear. Marina was pushing on systems. The HOA had noticed something. The bank had flagged something. The county records confirmed she had been testing edges. I did not know every detail of what she was doing, but I did not need to know everything to take the next step. I only needed enough verified facts to move correctly. In my room, I placed the envelope in the back of my drawer. I placed my notebook beside it. Then I turned off the light and lay down, listening to the quiet house. In the hallway, I heard Marina's footsteps. I heard her phone buzz. I heard her whispering through a door. I stared at the ceiling and stayed still. The more she tried to control, the more she revealed, and I was done reacting. I was only positioning now. The next week moved in a strange way. The house was loud in small ways, but my mind was quiet. Marina kept talking about days like they were numbers on a wall. She said I had 19 days, then 18, then 17. She said it in front of Evan and sometimes in front of guests, like she wanted the countdown to feel official. I kept my face calm. I kept my voice calm. I did not correct her in public. I did not fight her in the kitchen. I did not ask Evan to choose. I had already learned what he would do. He would try to make the room quiet, even if the price was me. On Tuesday morning, I drove to the law office. The building was not impressive. It was a plain brick place with a small sign and a clean lobby. The chairs were simple. The air smelled like paper and coffee. A woman at the front desk asked my name. I gave it and waited. When Patrice Nolan came out, she shook my hand and invited me into her office. She did not smile too much, and she did not look bored. She looked focused. I respected that. She asked me to explain what was happening, from the start, with dates if I had them. I told her the story in a calm way. I told her about the move-in plan that became permanent. I told her about the lock change. I told her about the public announcement at the ceremony. I told her about the group chat messages and the missing mail moments. I told her about the bank pause and the HOA meeting notice. I did not add drama. I did not call anyone names. I just spoke in facts. Patrice listened and wrote notes. When I finished, she asked a few short questions. She asked who was on the property. She asked who paid what. She asked if I ever signed anything giving them rights to the home. I told her I did not. She asked if I felt safe at home. I told her I felt pressured and disrespected, but I was not looking for a scene. I told her I wanted a clean solution through proper systems. She nodded once and said that was the right approach. She explained in simple terms that many people confuse living in a home with owning it. She said that pressure and public talk do not replace legal rights. She said the best move was to create a clear record and take calm steps that would hold up under review. Then she asked me to bring copies of what I had gathered. I handed her the envelope I kept in my bag. I did not watch her face too closely as she read. I only watched how she turned pages and underlined a few lines with her pen. After a few minutes, she told me we would take action the correct way. She said I should not warn Marina. She said people who push like that often change behavior when they feel control slipping, and they sometimes make bigger mistakes. She said my job was to stay steady and let the process do the talking. She put a few papers in front of me. She explained each one in plain words. I signed where she pointed. I did not ask for revenge. I did not ask to ruin anyone. I asked for order. I asked for my rights to be respected. Patrice said that was enough. When I left her office, I felt lighter. Not happy, not excited, just lighter, like I was no longer carrying everything alone. I drove straight to a small shipping store and rented a mailbox there. It was not dramatic. It was a basic choice. I did not want my mail sitting in a kitchen where it could disappear. I filled out the form, showed identification, and got a key. I wrote the new mailing address in my notebook. Then I went to a storage place on the edge of town. I rented a unit big enough for my important items. The clerk gave me a code and explained the rules. I walked into the unit and looked at the empty space. It smelled like clean concrete and dry air. It felt like a blank page. Back at home, I started packing quietly. I did not pack like a person running away. I packed like a person closing one chapter with care. I started with small things in my room. Books, old photos, tools I kept for simple repairs, clothes I did not wear often. I labeled boxes with a marker. I stacked them neatly. I kept the room clean as I worked. Marina watched me for a moment from the hallway. She did not offer help. She did not ask if I needed anything. She only said I should not leave trash around. Then she walked away, as if I was a worker in her space. Evan came into my room later and stood near the door. He said he did not like how things turned out. He said Marina was stressed and he did not know how to balance everything. He said he hoped I understood. I told him I understood that he was tired. I told him I understood that he wanted peace. Then I told him I also understood something else. I told him peace that is built by pushing one person down is not real peace. It is only quiet on the surface. He looked at me like he wanted to answer, but he could not find a sentence that felt safe. Then he said he needed to get some sleep and left. And that night, I heard a car pull up late. I heard voices near the front door. I heard Marina's soft laugh. I did not step out. I did not look through windows. I stayed in my room and kept packing a box. I placed tape on it and wrote a label. 2 days later, the HOA meeting date got closer. Marina told Evan she would attend alone. She said she could talk her way through it. She said it was probably nothing. She said neighbors were always dramatic. I nodded when she said it. I did not challenge her. I did not warn her. I kept packing. On Friday, I rented a small moving truck. I did not tell Marina until the truck was already in the driveway. She came outside and stared at it. She asked why I needed something so big. She said I did not have that much. I told her I wanted to move my things in one trip. She said I should not be wasteful. She said I should not act like I was some important person being forced out. She said I was leaving because it was time and everyone knew it. I told her I understood her opinion. I packed the truck slowly. I did not rush. I did not throw things. I carried boxes with care. I loaded them like I cared about my life, because I did. Mrs. Shue stood on her porch for a moment and watched. When our eyes met, she did not smile, but she gave a small nod. It felt like quiet support. When I finished, I looked around my room. I wanted to leave it clean and simple. I wiped the shelves. I vacuumed the floor. I took 2 quick pictures of the room with my phone, not for drama, just to show how I left it. Then I closed the door. Marina walked through the hallway and said it was about time. She said she expected me to leave the spare key on the kitchen counter. She spoke like she was the owner giving instructions. I did not correct her. I did not argue. I only asked Evan to come to the kitchen for a moment. He came in, looking tired and unsure. I told him I was leaving earlier than Marina's deadline because I did not want constant tension in the house. I told him I would not fight in front of neighbors. I told him I would not shout in group chats. I told him I still cared about him, but I needed distance. Evan asked where I would go. I told him I had arranged a place for now. I did not give details. Marina stepped closer and said I should not make this emotional. She said people leave all the time. She said I should be grateful she gave me a timeline. I looked at her and kept my voice even. I told her I heard her. I told her I would leave the house in good condition. I told her I expected the same respect back, in a practical way. She smiled again, that thin smile, and said I would not have problems if I stayed out of their way. I picked up my bag and walked out. Before I drove off, I placed my house key in a plain envelope and wrote Evan's name on it. I set it on the kitchen counter where he could see it. I did not add a note. I did not write a speech. I did not beg. I did not accuse. I let the simple action speak. I drove to the storage unit first and unloaded the boxes I did not need right away. Then I drove to a small rental room I had booked for 2 weeks. It was clean and quiet. It had a bed, a small table, and a lamp. The place smelled like fresh soap. It felt empty, but it also felt calm. That evening, my phone buzzed with messages in the family group chat. Marina posted a short note about transitions and new beginnings. She wrote like she was teaching a lesson. A few people reacted with polite icons. Nobody asked me directly if I was okay. Nobody asked what happened. People often do that when they sense conflict. They choose comfort over clarity. I did not respond. I called Patrice once to confirm I had done what we discussed. She told me to keep my routine normal and to let the process run. She told me not to contact Marina directly unless it was necessary and calm. She told me to keep saving messages and notes, but not to get pulled into arguments. I thanked her and ended the call. Later, Evan texted me. He asked if we could talk soon. He said Marina was upset that I left early. He said she felt I was trying to make her look bad. He said he did not want anyone to fight. I read the message twice. Then I typed a short reply. I told him I was fine. I told him I would talk when the time was right. I told him I wanted things handled properly and calmly. I turned off the screen and placed the phone face down on the small table. In that quiet room, I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to nothing. No footsteps in the hallway, no sharp comments from the kitchen, no pressure in the air, just silence. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe without asking permission. I lay down, kept my hands still, and let my mind stay calm. I woke up before sunrise in the small rental room. The air was still, no footsteps in the hallway, no sharp comments from a kitchen. I made instant coffee and sat at the small table with my notebook closed in front of me. My phone lit up with a call from Patrice Nolan. Her voice was calm. She said the filings were accepted. She said the timing was set. She said I should not contact Marina and I should not answer any emotional messages. She said the next step would happen in the morning at the house, and she asked me to be nearby in case my identity needed to be confirmed. I drove back toward my street and parked where I could see the front of my house without blocking anyone. I did not pull into the driveway. I did not want it to look like I came to fight. I sat in the car with my hands on my lap and waited. The neighborhood looked normal at that hour. A few porch lights were still on. A dog barked once and then stopped. The sky was pale and cold. It felt strange to look at my own home from the outside like it belonged to someone else. Around 8, a county vehicle turned onto my street, followed by another car that looked like a city unit. They parked in front of my house. 2 people stepped out. One was a deputy in a plain uniform. The other carried a clipboard and a small camera. They walked to the porch together. Marina opened the door quickly, like she expected a delivery. Her posture changed when she saw who it was. She tried to speak first. Her hands moved the way they did when she was trying to manage a room. The deputy stayed steady and professional. He asked her to confirm who she was. He asked who owned the property. Marina spoke fast, like confidence could replace paperwork. The deputy handed her a packet and explained that it was a civil service. He said it concerned the property owner's rights and a formal notice related to removal and occupancy. He also said the file included a record of a public statement used to pressure an owner out of his own home, and that this was being treated as a serious matter because it connected to a pattern of coercion and attempted control. Marina tried to laugh it off. She tried to talk like it was a misunderstanding. The deputy did not argue. He simply repeated that his role was service and documentation. The city compliance officer stepped forward next. He introduced himself and explained there was an active review connected to the address. He said the city had received concerns about repeated short stays and unusual traffic patterns at late hours. He said there were also concerns about unauthorized use of the home that could trigger penalties. He told Marina he needed basic information about who lived there, how many people stayed overnight, and whether any activity in the home involved short-term arrangements. Marina turned her head sharply, like she was searching for the best angle. She tried to say it was only friends visiting. She tried to say neighbors were being dramatic. She tried to say she was being targeted. The officer did not react emotionally. He asked for dates and names. He said the city had a timeline already. He said the timeline included license plate notes from reports, complaint logs from the HOA, and statements connected to repeated arrivals with bags. He said if Marina wanted to dispute it, she could do that through the proper process, but he needed to document the current occupants and deliver the notice. Then the officer posted a bright paper on the inside of the glass near the door. Marina looked at it like it was a stain she could not wipe off. At that point, the deputy asked if the property owner was present or reachable. I stepped out of my car slowly and walked up the sidewalk with my hands visible. I did not rush. I did not smirk. I did not speak to Marina. I only looked at the deputy and told him my name. He asked for identification. I handed it to him. He compared it to the file and nodded. He asked a few simple questions. He asked if I owned the home. He asked if I had signed any agreement giving Marina control over the property. I answered in plain words and kept my voice low. The deputy gave my identification back and noted the confirmation. Marina stared at me, and for a second she looked like she could not decide which version of me she was seeing. The quiet older man she pushed around, or the homeowner standing with an official file in motion. She shifted into a different tone and tried to speak to me directly, like she could pull me back into a private argument. I did not respond. Patrice had told me to let systems speak, not emotions. The compliance officer continued calmly. He explained the next steps. He said the city would follow up and that documentation would matter. He said there were deadlines to respond. He said ignoring notices would add penalties. He said if there were unauthorized occupants, the owner had the right to require the property to return to proper use. He said that was not personal, that was process. Then Lena Ortiz from the HOA arrived in her own car. She walked up holding an envelope. Her expression was neutral, but her posture was formal. She handed the envelope to Marina and said it was a notice of violation and a scheduled review connected to traffic, parking, and repeated guest turnover. She said fines could begin if the issue continued. She said the HOA would communicate with the property owner moving forward. Marina's face tightened. She tried to speak as if she was the owner. Elena did not argue. She simply repeated that the HOA records listed me as the owner of record, and the HOA would follow the owner's instructions, not a household member's demands. Evan arrived a few minutes later, pulling in fast and stepping out with his work bag still on his shoulder. He looked from the deputy to the posted notice to Marina's face. He looked confused, like he had walked into the middle of a conversation he did not understand. He asked what was happening. Marina spoke first, trying to control the meaning. She tried to make it sound like I had done something unfair. She tried to frame it as a personal attack. The deputy responded in plain terms. He said the matter was civil and procedural. He said the property owner had asserted his rights through formal filings. He said there were also separate notices connected to compliance and HOA rules. He said the household needed to follow the instructions on the paperwork. Evan looked at me then. His eyes searched my face for anger. I did not give him anger. I gave him calm. I told Evan that I was not going to fight with anyone. I told him I would not argue in the driveway. I told him I handled things the right way, through the systems that exist for this exact reason. I told him I wanted order and boundaries, not drama. Marina tried to step closer, like she wanted to pull the conversation into a private corner. The deputy asked her to step back toward the doorway so he could finish documenting service. The compliance officer took a few photos of the posted notice and the address marker. Lena noted the time and confirmed her next contact would be through the owner. Marina stood in the doorway with the packet in her hands. The confident smile she used at the farewell ceremony was gone. In its place was a tight, quiet panic she could not charm away. The deputy gave one final instruction about how to respond and where to direct questions. He and the compliance officer walked back down the steps. Lena followed them to her car. I stayed where I was and watched my front door from a respectful distance. Marina looked at the paper on the glass again, then looked at the deputy's car, then looked at Evan like she wanted him to fix it. The deputy asked her one last time to step inside so he could note the end of service. Marina did it without speaking. The door closed, and the latch sounded clean and final.